All right. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Delivering Activities from guideWELD Curriculum Online. It is 1 o'clock, so we will get started. My name is Emily Klinsky. I am on the marketing team here at Realityworks. Presenting today, we have with us Jamey McIntosh. He is our RealCareer product manager. Jamey has been with Realityworks for 9 years and came to us with an extensive education background as a former educator teaching in Wisconsin and in Colorado. His topics cover student engagement, technology in the classroom, gaming, filling the skills gap, business education, and various agriculture and welding topics. So he's a pretty stellar resource for today's webinar, and I will go ahead and pass things over to him to get us going.
All right, thank you very much, Emily, and thank you for all of you for joining us here. We really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we can give you some resources, some activities, and some guidance here on how we can help with your education classroom in these very interesting times that we are in. So just to get started here, a few things, some Zoom meeting reminders, and we will be talking about Zoom and other formats here in a little bit, but just some reminders for you. Want to just remind you that there is a chat area here. So as we go, if you have questions, feel free to hit that chat area and ask a question, and then Emily and I will try to get to and answer all the questions that you might have as we go along. So thank you for taking the time today as we talk about the and engage. Want to start out right away with something that we are trying to do to help you. Again, in this world of remote learning, you are now having to do things in a different manner than you've probably ever had to do before. And so what we're going to be doing is talking about our curriculum and how you can use that and help you in the classroom. So, and when I say in the classroom, in the online classroom that we're now all in right today. So with this, some things that we want to share with you is that we have put all of our curriculum for all of our welding products online. And so all you have to go is go to our website. And we will again do this at the end, but want you to be very aware of where it's located so you can go grab what you need. It's all in PDF format, so you can go out and get presentation slides and worksheets and activity sheets and fact sheets and teacher guides on all of our different curriculum that focuses on welding. All you need to do is go in here to the COVID-19 response, hit learn more. When you click on that learn more, it will bring you to our resources and ideas for continued learning. Now, there's a lot of great resources in here. We have webinars, we have some free lesson plans, really focusing on exploratory careers, so exploration of careers, and then some soft skill development as well. We also then have our program resources, and that's what you're going to want to focus on, is that program resource area. We have guides and we have curriculums there for our products. So all you have to do is click on that guides and curriculum, and it will pop up. Now, we have all of our curriculum on there. So we are a company that deals with family consumer science, agriculture, health science. We have a lot of different things in those areas, but we also have it in the trade skills from welding and then also electrical focuses. And so all you have to do is scroll down to the trade skill area and you'll see welding. And then as you can see here, it has all the different curriculum and resources that we have based on our product lines that we carry. So at the very bottom there, you see the link there. Again, it's Realityworks. Access your guides and curriculum. That's all you have to go to there to be able to look and get that. Now, once you click on what you want, then all of a sudden you get in here and it has the instructor guides, student guides, quick start guides, and then it also has curriculum. And that's where, when you open this up, it is PDF files, and it is all user friendly, all available for you to be able to use with your students. So we really want to promote that as a help to you. How can we help you, and what can we do to encourage your ability to use what you need? So welcome today. My name is Jamey McIntosh, like was said before, and we're going to just go through some different samples here of our curriculum, trying to help you to see, okay, how could I piece this together? What can I do? And then really kind of give you some different ideas for remote learning, because that is the world you're in. But before, let's just get started here. A reminder to you is, right now we're in that social distancing. So the way I like to look at it is, it's about a welding booth apart. If you tell your students that, hey, make sure that you're being safe and at least a welding booth apart, you'll probably be okay. You don't have to. We don't want anybody in the same welding booth right now. We want to make sure that we keep our safe distance there. So with that being said, let's talk about some remote learning options, because the reason why we're really doing this is because of that need to distance ourselves. And schools are not in session right now, but you are still interacting with your students. And so we want to give some, hopefully some help in that area, give you some different ideas. And we want to be there for you to kind of think through. And right now, as you're probably kind of working really tirelessly trying to figure out how do we do this new norm, here's some ideas for you to think about. Okay, so hopefully this gets you thinking, gets you some good ideas for this. All right, so one thing that we heard was this idea from all this was this idea from an instructor in kind of talking about remote learning now, is that they know the content, but what they're really looking for is the correct approach. What is that approach that they need in this world of remote learning? And so that really got me thinking of, okay, how can we help you? Because you do know the content you're in. You have a good understanding, but how do you get it to your students? How do you feed that educational pipeline for your students in this stage of the game here? And so in this case, all right, we're really looking for how we can help in that approach. So first thing I want to kind of focus on is really asking you to think about how you're building, and what I'm calling is your course time. We're in a very interesting stage of the game right now, where a lot of times there's new pressures, new technology you're learning, new ways of trying to connect with your students. And I just kind of put in here some different ways that from different instructors, different webinars and interaction with different teachers across the country that I've heard that is helping them in this time. So hopefully this is a help to you. And the way I looked at it is just kind of, as we talk about remote learners, I'm just using the word remote to help you kind of remember this, all right? So the first one is remember the big themes. One of the things that we're seeing in today's day and age is that teachers are being told that, okay, you still need to teach, but maybe it's not where you're needed to teach new stuff and the students aren't expected to have new teaching, but go back and reteach what you taught over the year, all right? And so one of the questions that I would ask you to think about is, what are some big themes that you have? What are the big things that if you could step back and ask the question, what do I want my students to know this year? This is what I'm going to reiterate and go over. Make sure they have those big things in this time, and it's always something to remember and remind them. Then engage. And the way that I think we're going to have to engage now with this distance that we have is through questions. It's not always going to be that understanding where, okay, I can tell from body language or I can see interaction between students. It's going to have to be in a questioning manner. And so we're going to have to ask those questions and engage our students through questions and let them think about it. So one of the things you may have to start doing is really kind of say, okay, what's that big theme? What's that big question that I want to ask? And give them time, give them opportunity to think through it, and then have them come back with those answers to those questions. Then it's a mindfulness, and this is a little different, and I know that teachers are doing this already, and it's amazing to see through different social media sites, through the news, that how mindful you are as teachers of your whole student. You care about your students, you engage with your students, you want them to be the best that they can be. And so again, this is that time where we can sometimes get focused on, just getting the curriculum or getting that academic side, but really it's this mindfulness on the whole student. How do we help the whole student from what their academic is, their stress level, their emotional state, their physical state, all those different things kind of come in. And so be mindful of that. It's not always just about the academic. So how do we step back? And maybe you have to cut back, maybe you have to revamp or realign things, but how do we really focus on the whole student and ask the questions of how they're doing on a whole? And then What that can sometimes do is open the floor for new experiences. And one of the things I think this is definitely a new experience for all of us as teachers and educators, but also for our students. They haven't gone through this. And so it is a definite new experience, but it opens the floor here to say, okay, with that new experience, what are we learning? What is coming from this? And we're going to talk a little bit about that when we talk about essential workers. What does that actually mean? So open that floor for new experiences and let the students say, yep, it's unprecedented. We have not seen this, but how can we still help you when we're in this remote world? What are we doing that is still going to make you successful? And then the T here is teach the fun. We are in some stressful times. We don't know when everything's going to come back together to the way we kind of knew it was before. So we got to still try to find some ways to have fun. And one of the things that is just amazing when I'm in classrooms is how much engagement happens when students are having fun, being either competitive or interested or interacting. And so by teaching the fun, that engages and brings your students back into kind of the norm. And so let's make sure we're also having fun with our students. And then E is elevate the individual learning. This is an opportunity now that you're going to get FaceTime or email time, or maybe you're getting information from your students, but it's still that, how do we elevate that individual learning? And the way that sometimes we can do this now from this social distance is allowing students to go into different types of learning modalities or interest areas that they have and let them learn differently. So in some cases, it might all be where a lot of times where we're on one focus here and we want everybody to focus on this area, it might be where you need to branch off and let students say, yep, that was an interest to you, that's an interest to you, that's an interest to you. Go learn about those things and put the ownership back onto the students. Let them engage their own individualized learning. So something for you here with the idea of remote, just some ideas for you to kind of think about and go through. So here's some teaching options that we have, and I want to walk through different ones that we have. So the first one here is remote lecture. What I'm doing right now is this a lecture opportunity with things like Microsoft Teams, with Skype, with Zoom meetings, different areas that you can actually discuss with your students and still have a classroom kind of atmosphere, is that remote lecture opportunity. Then we have the ability for you to go into that lecture and presentation slides. One of the things we're going to talk about today is we have a whole host of presentations, PowerPoint presentations for you on everything from MIG welding, stick welding, all the different types of coupons and correct hand positions and technique. We have a whole host of different things about your machine and how to do types of welding. That presentation slide can be very advantageous in helping you to get this stuff across. And that's something we're doing right now is I am doing the remote lecture to you, and then I'm also having a presentation slide that goes along with it. Another opportunity is this lecture, PowerPoint activity, and then activity. Some sort of activity. And what we're going to get into is we have in our curriculum here, we have different worksheets, we have a safety exam, we have different opportunities with that activity to then get that learning again. That PowerPoint presentation or that lecture is always good, but then are you getting something back from your students? Some activity to say, okay, do you get the learning? Are you understanding that? And then we're going to go in, and I have our guideWELD VR here, virtual reality welding simulator here. We're going to talk about demo, and we're going to go through this idea of demoing on top of that. So being able to show what you're doing and how you kind of walk through and demo that information as well. So to get started here, want to just talk through each one of them. Remote lecture, in this case here, all right, always have a focus. Give them something to look at. And so in this case, I have the guideWELD VR here, and something that we're going to be able to show you here is, okay, how do we help lecture and to be able to interact with that? Now, one thing that we can do in the world of guideWELD, if you have guideWELD, so I'm going to just flip my screen here for a second, and I'm going to show you me actually interacting, where you can actually still talk with your students, interact with your students, show them how you are welding in the virtual world, and they can actually see your weld as well and be able to show that. Now, because of our internet here, you may be able to see this, and it may be a little bit laggy as it comes over the internet with so many people on the same connection right now. But what you can see then is talk to students about, okay, I'm doing a weld. What am I doing right? What I'm doing wrong? Be able to show that remote learning in this world as well. So we will come back to that and talk more about that in a little bit, but just wanted to give you a taste of different ideas that we're going to share with you today. So the next thing then is just that presentation slide, that ability to, again, have a focus, but present with them and give them something to be able to show. And I have my presentation slide up here, and just a few things is, again, one of the reminders here is sometimes on presentation slides, less can be more. So make sure you don't overfill a presentation slide. Make a lot of slides and put less on each one so you can interact and talk through on a more kind of a slower and a more manageable or chewable understanding for your students. And then there's different ways to go about it. A lot of times it's that demo where you do a demo first. Hey, I'm going to show you what you need to know about MIG welding or stick welding. And I'm going to give you some examples here. And then we're going to go through the presentation about those types of things that I just showed you. Or maybe present first. And then you say, okay, now let's bring it into the virtual world, and I'm going to share with you there. All right. And then there's that lecture and activity as well. So now again, including, and what I would say in what we're doing and what you're doing is really work at that reflection piece. Okay. Or is there something to assess? It doesn't always have to be in the sense of a assignment or a worksheet that you email out or put on your learning management system. But sometimes it might also be just to gauge their learning. So maybe it's questions, and that goes back to that remote idea of how you schedule and work your courses, is what are the questions you want them to get at the end of a presentation or a lecture that you might give. So asking those questions and see if they're understanding that activity is important. And then the demo. And again, making sure that you're using the demo to gain purpose and understanding to the learning, letting them be able to see what you're doing and how you're doing it. Even when you are miles apart from them, by doing it in the demo mode and using different opportunities, you can still share that with your students, all right? And it gives them a sense of interaction even when they may not feel like they're right next to you, which they are. So again, just some different ideas here for you to really show the different options that might be available or ways for you to be able to remote learn with your students. Now, we want to jump in and talk about some different curriculum. And so I've taken different parts and pieces from our curriculum to just highlight and show you what these are. And some of them are kind of in the mode of where we're at right now. So trying to give you some different options to kind of look at and go through. So what we have and what we're going to talk about today is 3 different curriculum lessons that we have in our guideWELD VR curriculum that is online for you, total open access for you to go and use those PDFs, and it walks you through the teacher guide of how to use those as well. So what we're going to talk is we're going to start with career welding opportunities, talking about those careers that you might want to be in if you are looking that pathway. And then we're going to go into safety and talking about personal protective equipment, because right now there's a big push and talk about personal protective equipment, and you can align that with welding as well. And then we're going to talk about welding basics. So we're going to talk about technique, proper welding technique. Now, your students may not be able to actually get into the booth right now. They may not have a welder, not be able to do that. You still can work with them and focus on welding basics and talk through and get them to understand what the right technique is and understand some of those. So, hey, when they do get that opportunity, when we do go back to school, when we get that opportunity to actually try it, we have that base knowledge. We have that layer of understanding that we need as we go. So all of our lessons and everything that we have here is really focusing on 3 main areas. We always start with a focus where we're trying to capture that student's attention. We get into a learn, where is that, how are we presenting and learning about different things? And then there's a review, okay? So those are kind of the 3 areas that we're going to be focusing on in all of our lessons. So to start with here, we're going to talk about 3 different lessons from our curriculum. As you can see, there's a lot more lessons available. We're going to focus on 3: Welding Careers, on welding safety, personal protective equipment, and that's all in Unit 1. And then in Unit 2, we're going to go to our welding basics and focus on welding basics. But there's a lot more lessons in here in our curriculum than what we're actually talking about today. So wanted just to remind you that. So starting with this welding career exploration. Now, want to share this. If you have guideWELD VR welding simulation, that's going to help you with that demonstration and detailed welding technique piece. It's going to be able to help you kind of go to that next level and be able to share that with your students. Now, if you don't have that, you can still use our curriculum. Our curriculum still is deeply based and focuses on all the knowledge that you need for welding. You just don't have that demonstration piece as well, but it's still very rich for you and helpful in that sense. And again, that is on our website, and you can go to that access your guides and curriculum area. So starting with curriculum or our unit here, our overview here is just, we're going to start with a focus on career welding highlights, go into slide presentation, and then finish with our career fact sheet. So let's first start with careers, okay? So in this case, you might want to start with a focus question of, right now we're really asking the question, what are considered essential jobs today? Well, manufacturing is still considered. Some construction is still considered. So what careers that might match up with what we're talking about as essential workers? Those who are still in the workforce, those are still getting a paycheck and not having to worry about unemployment or things of that nature. Right now, what are those fields that a welder might fit into where even in these tough times, they are still going to have a very good career path, a very good job, a paycheck that's coming home? That might be a really good interactive question to kind of talk about, and then really kind of move into that and say, okay, well, if you don't know what those are, all right, give them a little opportunity. Go online, go look at some of those different careers that are considered essential. How do they line up with welding? Where is that interaction going? And is that something where, hey, maybe that's a career path I need to be looking at as we're in this time, but in the future too, where I can be able to go to different parts of the country, different places even around the world, and there are careers waiting for me because of my ability to be able to weld. So in our welding careers, we talk about over 10 different career pathways that you may have within welding that involves welding. So in our learn section, we then have presentations. So we have fact sheets. We have the ability for you to do a presentation, a lecture and a presentation for your students going through every single type of welding career. And the way we focused it here is, as you can see here, is I'm just using the fabricator or fitter welder, is there's a definition. It talks about salary and what the salary for that person might be. And then it also talks about education. So we focus on 3 areas of defining what does this person actually do? What is the welding that they would be most using in that career? Then we go into, okay, what kind of salary, what kind of number of jobs that are available, and all kind of based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics of what does the future look like for those types of jobs. And then the education. What do you need? What kind of education do you need to be able to get into that career? What is that thing that you should be looking at? And right now, when students have time, when they're at home, some of these ideas and these questions of career, what should I be looking for, might be a great time for them to start looking at. And again, that focus piece of, what are the jobs out there that I may want to have? Then get into the learn piece of, okay, what are the different jobs? What does that entail? And then we also have a review section, okay? In this case, we have fact sheet notes where as you're doing your presentation, you can have your students be taking notes with our fact sheets, having that interaction with them. And again, you can talk about them. So this oral discussion with them of what do you think about that? Where does your interest lie? What are you good at in that world? Talking to them, but then also it can be a participation. Are you engaging with me? Are we interacting? Are we getting that information there? So these are all free resources that we're giving you to be able to help into that and kind of questioning and going into that world of, hey, there's a lot of different career paths in welding. Let's talk about them. Here's a time that we can go out there and kind of look at that. Another piece is with that fact sheet is have your students be able to say, okay, now pick one of these paths. Pick a career that you might want to go down, and let's have you go research that. Where are big locations for that? Where would you want to be able to, do you want to be able to move? Do you want to have the ability to stay in the location that you're at right now? What businesses in our region here could you be working for? What places across the country could you be working for? Maybe you're even going it so far as, okay, what is your career path to get to that job? Giving them that kind of ability. This is the time where they can do some of that research, that information kind of grab on their own and kind of learn and figure out that way. The next one here is we have a lesson on welding safety and personal protective equipment. Again, this is a place where using guideWELD VR can be very helpful. There's even that interaction where you can use this and say, okay, what's wrong with what I'm doing? And maybe you switch some stuff up. Maybe you take your gloves off. Maybe you take your helmet and you don't have it over your head. Maybe you grab your sheet with your metal piece here without actually having your gloves on. You can role play and work through some of those things here using our simulator and talking through some of that. So then they are recognizing what's safe, what's not safe. What is that they need to be kind of focusing on that sense. Now, if you don't have it, that's okay. You can still use all of our curriculum, still helpful in that way. And you can go through the different curriculum pieces there as well. So in this case here, we're going to focus on what personal protective gear is. We're going to go into some slide presentations and then show you the safety exam that you can use for review as well. So in our safety lessons, and I'm only focusing on one, I'm focusing on personal protective equipment. But we actually have 3 lessons, and they cover everything from personal protective safety, electrical safety, fumes and ventilations, gases, and fire safety, all looking and encompassing this overarching view of safety. Now, I picked personal protective gear today because one of the questions that we're hearing a lot about right now in our news is just that personal protective gear. It might be on the healthcare side of how this pandemic is happening and how things are going, but we also have personal protective gear in welding. So they match up, they kind of align very well for this. So why is personal protective gear so important? What are some reasons? What are you hearing right now in our current events and why that's so important? Well, if it's for health and safety, how does that then carry over into welding as well? You can have a great conversation with your students in that world about personal protective gear and kind of the here and now, as well as really getting them to understand how important it is for the rest of your life. All right, so again, pose these questions, and maybe it's an online discussion, maybe it's something where, hey, tomorrow when we talk, I want you to answer this question. Maybe it's something where, hey, we're going to start talking about personal, and we just want you to get an understanding, an idea in this. So what are the essential personal protective equipment for welding? Are there things that, yeah, I could, have or not have? Oh, I better have this, but that one is a maybe. What are those things? Getting them to kind of talk about that and then get a discussion going, asking those questions. So then you're really kind of looking at them and saying, yep, this is something that somebody would say is you must have. Another person says it's a maybe. Okay, let's talk through that. Get that interaction and that engagement from your students as well. All right. So personal protective gear then goes into kind of that focusing on a lot of different things here. From your eyes and your face, your head, your hearing, feet, hands, body. We go in and we talk about each one. We have PowerPoint slides so you can get them started to start thinking about what parts of my body do I need to be protecting. Then we get into our learn here, and our learn really starts talking about the slide presentation. It deep dives into every one of these protective areas. So it talks about the helmets and what you need and what are the proper filters and lenses for that. It talks about, It talks about our heads and our hearing and why is that important? What are the things you need for those kind of protection? And then it goes into all the different areas of our body and really talks through what you need, why is it important again. So by going through these, it then will bring you to a time of review, allowing your students then to be able to really ask questions, all right? And we have a safety exam. Now, you can pick parts out of that safety exam. You can use the whole thing, but it's there for you. It has both the exam and then the answer key for you instructors here to be able to have all these different pieces for your students. These then allow you to go ahead and have your students grab onto these and be able to answer the questions, and for you to see, hey, are they understanding what we're talking about? Again, it's a great piece to oral discussion or that participation. And maybe in this case, it's one of those things where, hey, I want you to know this well enough that you can pass this test, and I want to get this as a grade, and I want to have it as an overall view of what you know and what you've learned. For some, you will use this exam here, or you use safety as a focus of, before they can even get into the lab or into the welding booth, they had to pass their safety exams. Well, now being out of that for a few years, is it something where, yep, we should get back in there. We should be interacting again in that world. So with that, I want to jump into our last one, which is welding basics. All right. Now, again, same type of thing. Using VR is your best bet for demonstration and being able to interact with your students in this distance learning that we have. But we also have the curriculum online, so you can use a lot of the curriculum that we have. All right. So we're going to start with a basic checklist, move into the slide presentation, and now we're talking about demo. How you as a teacher can still be showing proper welding technique even though you're not in the booth, even though your students aren't able to be in the booth. And then some demo review here. So I want to talk through some of this here real quick with you. So welding basics here, all right? So you might want to just ask the question, what is, or what do you think of when I say something like welding technique basics? What are the basics you need for proper welding technique? So then you are not the variable. You have your machine, you have you. What is it that is proper welding technique here? All right. And so then maybe you just ask the question, okay, tell me, what are some of those techniques? What are those things that you have to make sure that you are focusing on? And that's where I would get right into, you know, what are some different things? And our curriculum talks about the welder settings themselves. All right. Then there's also about your distance, your angles, your speed, your comfort and manipulation, how you're working through that. And so that checklist really is getting them to think back to and understand what is so important. And then we go in and we can talk through and give them that lecture kind of piece of welder settings. How do you do that? Your technique from distances, angles, your speed, all right? And then what I really want to hit on is, how do you do some of this demo, okay? Now, I want to jump here over to our welding simulator and do a little bit of that demo here for you, all right? So let me switch here so you can see, all right, my welding demo. All right, now what I have here is I have guideWELD VR. It's right in front of me. What you should be seeing on your screen is the software of guideWELD VR. All right, so let me just make sure that I have you there. Yep, and so in this case now I have it set up so you as the instructor would be just like what I'm doing, where you can actually talk through and interact with your students. So you can go in here and you can actually go in and do your weld here in the different worlds. Now, let me show you a little bit in the virtual world here. So I'm going to jump out of this. All right. And a reminder for you that inside of the virtual world here, I have a whole bunch of different types of welds that my students can use to do. So the reason I'm showing this is because I have all these different types of welds, from T-joints and lap joints. We have V-grooves, we have butt joints, and then at the same time, we have different metal thicknesses. We have different abilities for you to use both stick and MIG welding. I'm using MIG, you can also use stick. But even here, what you can see is you can walk through and teach your students and remind them, okay, how do you actually tack your weld? All right? Making sure that they tack their weld. You can have them come into this world here, and inside of this world, they can actually see, okay, here's our virtual welding booth. What are your thoughts on it? What are some reminders and safety that you should be remembering when you're actually doing a weld? All right? How do you then set up and get in proper position? Okay. Now in this case, I might actually take and I have my stool here. I might have them talk through about, okay, sitting position versus standing position. What are the differences? What are some of that comfort level and those techniques there? Then you can actually go in and you can show your students and talk through. We have speed, we have travel angle, work angle, nozzle plate, all right? You can walk through all these different things for your students. You can move around in here. You can get closer and you can talk to students about, okay, let me show you how I'd actually do my weld here. And am I doing it correctly? And you can see with our guide here, it gives you the guidance, the plus sign or the equal sign of, am I doing a weld correctly? Am I getting too far back or am I too close? All right, now, I'm not gonna finish this weld, but it then can show you, right? And you can start talking about, well, let's talk about this weld here, all right? And I can get real close here and see, did I do well? Are there areas that, yep, not very good? All right, and you can go through some of those and view and have your students understand and kind of get a new knowledge of, oh yeah, those are things that I need to remember, and things that even though I may not be able to physically do it, I can work through it. So I want to take you another route. So one of the routes is just doing what I just did, is doing a presentation here where I actually do some live welding in the virtual world for my students to be able to see. Now, in this case with Zoom and other areas, you can do that and also do it in a way where your students would then be able to not only see, but they could also ask you questions in some cases, all right? Another thing that you can do, and I want to show you here, is something where I did, and this took me about, really it took me, for myself, it took me about 20 minutes to do the welds and to record the welds. And then it took me about another 20 minutes to be able to put it on to this PowerPoint. And so one of the things that you can do here is you can actually then go in here and show your welds in this world. So let me just make sure that you can see my screen here, okay? And what I want to show you is that I actually did, and so the way I did it, and I want to talk through that a little bit, is I actually went on Zoom, and you can do this with other recording devices as well. Camtasia is another one, but I actually went on Zoom. I created my own meeting, and then on my meeting, I then recorded my meeting and recorded my shared screen. By doing that then, I created my own welds here, all right? And so I created this ability here for me to then share with you a weld that I did, what I would call a pretty quality weld, right? So again, it's something where as it gets going here, you'll actually be able to see the weld that I'm doing. Now, this is something where if you have this on a PowerPoint presentation, you can send this out to your students and let them be able to see this and be able to show them and be able to have them watch you doing actual quality welds in the virtual world. So in this case here, it's the end of the weld here, and I can actually see, okay, where did I do pretty good or where I didn't. This is a great opportunity here. Here's where, again, have some fun with your students. Let them critique the teacher for once. Let them look at you and say, oh, I would have done this better. I would have done this differently. Or, you know, you had it. All that's learning. All that is letting them have a little fun with you, having a little interaction, and then being able to say, okay, well, what are the problems with a weld like this? What did I do really well? Looking and understanding and checking those kind of things. Now, you can see then, and here's my weld score, all right? And you can actually walk through with your students. Let's talk about work angle. Work angle was at 45%. I was pretty good at my work angle. Who can remind me what work angle is? Who can remind me what the importance of work angle does, or what problems that could happen? Those are all questions you can be asking your students. And then you can go in here to travel angle, nozzle plate distance. What I can see here in mine, oh, there's my problem, speed, all right? Up top here, way too fast, got back in rhythm, a little bit faster, speed is gonna be my issue. Here's the problem I have. And then straightness is going to be another one that you can talk through. So all these are great kind of opportunities for you to work with your students and let them talk through. And by talking through it, they're learning about welding. They're interacting with welding, right? I have another one where I did a video here, and it's all about just technique, all right? Within the virtual world, talking about your work angle being too high, being too low, right? Then you can also talk through about your travel angle being too far one way or the other. All right, now we're in a push method here. You can also talk about push and pull. What's important there? All right, you can also show then your speed. Am I going too fast, going too slow? Show different welds or different pictures of welds in the virtual world. Take a snapshot in that virtual world to be able to see if you're doing it correctly there as well. All right. I then went a little bit different here, and I have this for you because I decided, you know, I want to show some differences, some side-by-side differences here. And so what I did was I have a WPS with a 9 inches per minute and a WPS with 15 inches per minute. And you can see the speed difference. And I started the 15 inches per minute weld later than the 9 inches. But what we're going to see is I'm still going to end up quicker and be done sooner with that 15 inches per minute. Getting students to be able to visually see, oh, by doing different welds at different speeds, okay, what do they look like? How much different material do you have in your weld, in your joint there, right? That speed then, what kind of speeds would you be going, or what kind of metals would you be using when you're going 15 inches per minute? What kind of metal thickness would you be using for 9 inches per minute? Showing some of this stuff gives that discussion, that piece for you and your students to be able to talk through. All right. Another one that I did was, I thought this was a fun one, is I didn't really focus on what the speed was. I went too fast or too slow. All right. And what I mean that I wasn't looking at the inches per minute here, but I was just showing, hey, if I just go way too fast, what does that look like? All right. Versus one where if I go way too slow, I know I'm going to burn through that metal, but what is that by having too much metal deposited there? What does that actually look like? Giving them the different views there, being able to see how those differences look like in that sense. So being able to talk through and say, yeah, well, if the WPS is saying this, but then I'm trying to get done here and show this difference here, what is the different look itself for that joint actually kind of show? And so what you can see here is you have a thickness on this one here, and you have a really small a joint there. And so what are you doing with your puddle? How much metal should you be putting on? What are the problems with that? But giving that side-by-side view kind of helps in that sense. Now, we talked a lot about MIG, and I've been using MIG, but we also have stick. So you can go and you can start with, and in this case, we had the striking of the match or the marking here, where I actually did some of, in this case, where I would have had stuck my electrode. And so walked through, okay, yep, how do you strike the arc? What does that look like? What's that technique of being able to strike that arc? What am I doing in that world? Okay. And so that is where we're kind of going in this world and showing some of that to you and to your students in that world. Okay. The next one then is, I also had one, is a quality weld. Being able to show your students using a simulation what a quality weld looks like. Now, again, this is where you can have fun with your students, all right? This is where you can do a weld and then you can have them critique it. You can show them and say, okay, what do you think of this? What does this look like to you? Well, did I have a consistent weld all the way across? Where are my problems? Where am I doing really well in this? All right. And so it shows different welds that you can, again, engage your students. And again, all right, was that fully quality weld? That's a great place to start talking. What problems did I have? Well, in some areas, it was a quality weld. In some areas, with my speed was way off. That was a problem. That was a concern. So in that case, your score really goes up and down based on that. All right. And then some reminders here. All right. So again, as we go through these and we show different ideas where you can use virtual reality to help you in this time and being able to give that to your students and interact with your students, one of the things here that we want to remind about is and talk through are how can we help you? So the question is what now? As we kind of close out this section, if you have different questions, please put that in the chat. We're gonna have a question and answer session in just a few minutes here. So write those down so we can answer any questions you might have. But what now? You can go and get these resources. You can get the curriculum, all right? We will be emailing you the presentation here, giving you that so you can see that as well. So in this case here, this is where you go and you can be able to get all the information that you need there. So again, to remind us, walk through is the COVID-19 response. You click on Learn More. You go down and you go to the guides and curriculum. You go to the welding, and we have different curriculum here. Now we focused on guideWELD VR, which is our welding simulation, and it goes through everything from welding careers, welding basics. It talks about different types of welding joints, and goes through all the different kinds of positions and things of that nature. But we also have guideWELD Live. And guideWELD Live is something where that goes through things like we've talked about. It talks about safety and information there, but it goes a little bit deeper in our guideWELD Live curriculum, where it starts talking about weld defects and what different defects come and different positioning. It also talks about WPSs and how to read a WPS. What does a WPS tell you? And then how to then be able to understand it. So there's a lot of curriculum there as well. We also have our weld defect kit, where in that case, that goes very in depth about the different types of defects, from undercut to overlap and slag inclusions, all those different things. So it talks through that. And then our bend tester too is a great feature where if you need to teach your students how to do a bend test, you can go through AWS's D11 code and walk through. This is how you do it. Have them be able to match up. And I wanted to show you here. I had some just blocks from my kids. All right, I'm at home too with the blocks from my own kids here. Is okay, taking these wooden blocks and start talking and having them and saying out, okay, what position am I in if I'm here? All right, what position am I in if I'm here? Okay, what if it's up here like this? What does that do? All right, what kind of things that I need to know? With bend tester, that's another place of, okay, are my grains going the same way? All right, what would I need to do in the next to make sure that I am having a quality weld and be able to qualify that weld? Those are all just different ideas for you and options for you there. All right. So also want to just say, we do have 10% off our product line. That includes our welding products. So guideWELD VR, guideWELD Live, or bend tester, you have the ability for 10% off all of our products in the welding side. And so you can go on and get that link there for our welding products. So with that, we thank you for this time. We are looking to do more of these. So if there is an interest for us to do more of these that we can help with and answer questions for you or help you in this room learning, we will be sending out an email. The follow-up email that you will get from this is just that. It will give you the links that you need, okay? It will then not only give you the links that you need, it will also give you the resources that we have here, the PowerPoint slide presentation here. It will also allow you to do a survey. So if there's more of these types of presentations that you're interested in, say, hey, I want one of these, this is what we could be helping you with as educators, we want to be able to do that and give that to you. So with that, I want to bring Emily back and just ask, are there any questions that we have that I've missed today?
Yeah, Jamie, we do have a question on how much does the VR unit cost? Okay,
that's a great question. So, and what I should probably do is I can show you exactly not only how much it costs, but where you can actually get that information. So let me bring it right up here. Hoping it's going to come up here, but yes, there we go. So just a walkthrough here. Make sure real quick that you are able to see this here. All right, is when you go to our website, Okay, right at the top here, and I should just walk through again. Here's the COVID-19 response. You just scroll right down. When you go to our website, all you have to do is click on the products page here, and then underneath trade skills, we have welding. And right there, you can go and you can learn a ton more information about our welding products here. And so in this case here, all you have to do is click on the welding simulator, and it will give you all the different information you need about the product, but it also has the pricing, okay? So for guideWELD VR with a MIG, and then let me show you the stick attachment as well here. All right, stick attachment is great because it actually has a retracting rod, so then as you burn your electrode, it actually moves away, so then you have to continue to move in. But if you're looking for that, you're looking at a price of just under $7,000 for the welding. All right.
And then since we are on the website, do you want to show them where to find tutorials on how to set up their VR unit at home?
Sure. So if you go into our support here, all right. Well, and let me show you here is underneath the COVID-19 response here. All right, you can come down here and we have webinars, we have free lessons, we have the curriculum Mike talked about, and then professional development. And so within the webinars here, and I'm kind of digressing here, but I'll get back to it, is they show all of our webinars and where the different information is. So that is one area, but the other area is if you go to our support page, all right, and you click on support, all right, and you go to product help. Sorry, it's taking me a moment. So in here, we have all of our different products here, and under trading skills and webinars here, you can go in and you can find guideWELD VR. And you click on that, and then right inside of guideWELD VR, it gives you everything you need from, and kind of what you're just asking is, how do I set up, clean up, or store my product? Everything I need to know to get started. It has actual videos and information on every single one. So first I walk through is, you know, your COVID-19 response here, where you can get all that information, and then there's also how do you actually set it up, okay? The other thing about our website then is also product-based. So you can also go and find these products you want. So a lot of different things, but all on our website for you to be able to use.
And then we have just one more question on, is the recording going to be shareable? We have somebody that wants to share it during a department meeting.
Yeah, so this is something where it will be sent to you. You can then watch it, and then you can, yeah, if you need to share with others or show other people how to use it, that is not a problem. We are here to help you, try to help you as much as we can in this time.
We do have a question on our guideWELD Live unit. Someone just purchased one, and they were wondering about training after the COVID-19. So where would they go for training?
Great question. So the best answer for that is you can either, you know, there's multiple ways. So with our support, we have our, and let me jump back to our, bring that down, is I can go right here, is you can go to information@realityworks.com and ask and say, hey, I want to know when I can get my training done. We will direct that right to our training team, where we can then work with you on, hey, yep, what's the best timing? We have different types of trainings. We have on-site trainings that you can purchase. We have webinar trainings that you can do. So if you have just purchased or you're in the process of purchasing, you need help once this is all done as we get ready for the new school year next year, we can then do webinar trainings and walk you through everything you need to know. So you, again, it's kind of that remote learning for you. We can do that. If there's an on-site need, we can also do that as well. So different options for you there. But we'd love to help you get set up, especially as you're getting ready. And most likely everyone will be really excited to get back into the classroom when that happens. And so how can we help you be able to get back in the classroom as quick as possible and be able to understand? So yeah, we have a lot of trainings for that. We also have, and I'll go back to our website just to plug again, the resources here is, our support here, and the resources we have in the support is that even right now, we have a ton of how-to videos, getting to know your product, things of that nature. And even in guideWELD Live here, we have a lot of videos. That might be something you want to kind of hone your skills even now. A lot of videos to get you understanding it before you get back into the classroom. All right. So our website is pretty unique in a sense of giving a lot of different guidance for you to be able to help you and show you what you need to do, and then how it works and things of that nature. So.
All right. It looks like that is all of our questions, Jamey.
Okay. Well, with that said, we thank you so much for taking this time with us, and really appreciate you what you're doing in this time. And if you have more questions, feel free to connect with us, get in touch with us. But thank you for what you're doing. Enjoy as much as you can. We really thank you for who you are, and hope that you've enjoyed this and give you something to use as you continue to teach. So with that said, thank you for your time, and keep on keeping on in this new world we're living in. So thank you for your time.